First of all, I'd just like to congratulate you on this tour and the DVD of the tour.
Well, thank you.
But particularly for the album that spawned it all, because if my information's correct, your 41st top 10 UK hit.
Is it?
His album. Which is an extraordinary achievement in itself, but as far as I'm concerned, even more so because it's almost all original material. Is that right?
Yes, it is. I mean, when David Guest, who formulated the idea originally and talked me into it, well, he didn't have to do much to talk me into it, but it was his idea. I thought originally we were going to do an album of classic, iconic songs, along with classic, iconic singers. But as the demos kept coming into me, there were new songs. Lamont Dozier of Holland, Dozier and Holland, who wrote all those, 54 number ones for Motown. He'd written a few songs, and I chose 3 or 4 of his. Then I saw Bo Dozier, and it was his son, Bo. And Bo wrote 4 or 5 of the songs on the album. So I suddenly thought, well, here we are singing new songs. And then Ashford and Simpson also had a hand at writing, I think, 3 songs. So it just grew from that. In the end, of the 15 tracks, only 4 would be remembered and recognized.
Okay. But what I was getting at really is, this, if you'll pardon the expression, this far down the track of your career, to be doing stuff that's original and whatever, you certainly don't need to do that. You could, I mean, Rod Stewart knocks out an album of standards every few years, and that's fine. But you seem to be stretching yourself and pushing yourself further, which is very admirable.
It's nice to do it. The thing is, of course, I'll have to be careful that I recognise when, in fact, this is not going to work anymore.
Right.
I mean, it's still early days with Soulicious. Albums nowadays take much longer to sell to their capacity, and I'll have to just be keeping an eye on how well it sells, because if, in fact, there's a little or no sale, would I do this again? I don't think so. I hate wasting other people's money. And I don't like wasting my own either. So, but the album for me, I've always thrilled at my albums, but for me to get a chance to, share, musically speaking, vocals with other people like Roberta Flack and Bebo Bryson and the Temptations and Frida Payne, and it was just fantastic. Percy Sledge.
Well, I was going to ask you about these. I mean, they don't come any bigger, these names that you work with on here. Do you get starstruck at this stage? Do you get sort of intimidated working with people of that stature?
I love working with them of that stature, and of course because I bought all those records. Most of us did. Most of us loved Motown, and we bought Band of Gold, and we had all these Percy Sledge records in our collections, and the Temptations, and the Stylistics. So for me to actually listen to my voice and hear Frida come in, or Roberta Flack, or Bebo with me, it's a fantastic treat.
Now, I mean, we mentioned that wonderful statistic of 41st top 10 hit album, and there are millions of stats about you, which I'm sure you're well aware of, best-selling UK singles artist of all time, and many, many more. And this is a question I know that you have been asked and have addressed before, but do you feel, given all of that you're somewhat underappreciated in the media? Well,
I just feel that I don't fit the mould, and therefore I've been very happy actually to be the one that's I feel that I'm the only radical person around, really. Everybody else does what everyone else is supposed to do and spits out of windows, and the days when they threw TV sets and stuff out of it. And now there's an absolute radio that decides they're not going to play me. I'm thinking, why? I mean, I can understand that people may not like what I do, but then that's true if you look at the charts. Most people look at the charts, and they probably don't like 50% of what's in there, but that doesn't make the chart any different. You still find out what everyone else likes. So for me to have outsold the Beatles, for instance, in terms of singles in Britain, well, I outsold everybody, actually. And it's not something I could have planned. It happened. And so I'm very happy with that. But to be snubbed like that, I'm thinking, first of all, they're lying to themselves. They can't get away from the fact that it didn't start with the Beatles. It started with Elvis. Then it came over to Europe, and it was me and Marty Wilde and my Shadows. And we had 5 years before the Beatles actually cracked it and then took it on to heights beyond our dreams. But to actually say we're not going to play, I just think it's dishonest to themselves and dishonest to their public.
Do you have any idea what the agenda is there? Because as you say,
apparently I'm not cool, but let me tell you this, there's only 2 cool things: success and still being alive. And that's really cool.
Both of those in spades, I think we can say.
Folks, and it doesn't really matter what I've given up worrying about whether or not I get played on radios. It doesn't. In the end, in the end, it doesn't really matter. The people out there already know what they like, and sometimes they like me, and sometimes they like somebody else, and that's how it's always been. So there's no point in festering about something like this, because it's of no consequence to me.